Seated. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to continue with some words about the portion. So for me, some of the more amusing commercials on television over the last number of years, and I'm sure we all have our favorites, but some of the ones that speak to that I think are amusing are from Geico. You might remember they had a series of ads that began with the question, would switching to Geico save you money on your car insurance? And then they always had something cute to do that. And one in the series addresses the potential consumer with yet another question. Was Abe Lincoln honest? What followed was grainy footage of Abe Lincoln's wife asking him if the dress she tried on looks flattering on her. We then see honest Abe struggle, trying to suppress his opinion, ultimately without success. He tells Mrs. L the bad news, and she walks away from him in frustration and, one would imagine, anger. Abe Lincoln was so honest that he would not even compromise his truth-telling in order to protect his wife's feelings. And of course, the message of the ad was, of course, Abe Lincoln was honest, and of course, Geico can save you money on your car insurance. Obviously, it was not a real Abe Lincoln. It was an actor. But what remains interesting to me is that in the commercial, and as we understand Abraham Lincoln, he made a decision that many of us, maybe even most of us, would not have made. He doesn't offer the small, pleasing white lie for what we might be consider to be the greater good of protecting someone else's, in this case, his wife's feelings. A well-known reading of our Torah portion for this Shabbat Vayechi finds a source from the story of Joseph's interactions with his brothers for the very idea that the small fib, the white lie, is religiously justified in certain circumstances. After Jacob's death, the brothers keep their promise to their father and take his body back to the land of Canaan to bury him in the cave of Machpelah, the burial site of the ancestors. At the conclusion of the mourning period, the family returns to Egypt. And as the brothers settle back in their lives in Egypt, a familiar anxiety begins to blossom among the brothers. And they express their concern, a fear. What if Joseph still bears a grudge against us? And now that our father has passed away, pays us back for all the wrong that we did him. Now, in truth, this worry actually seems well placed. Joseph is in a position of great power, and they are not. And behind their words lies an unspoken incredulity, perhaps complicated by lingering guilt. In the terseness of the text, I imagine the brothers' conversation held behind closed doors. Is it even possible, really, that Joseph really forgave us for taking him from his family, throwing him into the pit, and selling him into abject slavery? We have not spoken of the incident in the 17 years since our reconciliation with him. In fact, We've never even asked him for his forgiveness for the terrible wrong we perpetrated against him. Perhaps Joseph has been patiently waiting for our father's passing before he decided to settle old scores. Given these well-placed fears, the brothers send a message to Joseph, which we read in tomorrow's portion. Before his death, your father left the instruction, so shall you say to Joseph, forgive, I urge you, the offense and guilt of your brothers who treated you so harshly. Jacob speaks from beyond the grave and instructs Joseph to pardon his brothers. But of course, this message feels painfully contrived and self-serving. There is no record of this statement in the Torah. And if this was indeed Jacob's instruction, why had he not shared it directly with Joseph as he was offering his grandchildren, Joseph's sons, their blessing, and had Joseph to himself? Or why hadn't he shared it when he gave his blessings to all the sons together and said directly in front of all of them, I want you to make up? Indeed, by juxtaposing this new deathbed wish with their concern that Joseph would now seek his revenge, the Torah intimates that this is a desperate fabrication created by the brothers in response to their fears. Joseph's reaction to hearing this lie, white lie, is that he cries. He cries. And he reassures his brothers that he intends them no harm. The rabbis understood the presentation of Jacob's alleged words by the brothers as a white lie. And basing themselves on this very incident, Rabbi Ilah and Rabbi Elazar, two sages in the Talmud, conclude, Mutar lo le'adam l'shanot bidvar shalom. It is permitted to change the truth for the sake of peace. And Rabbi Natan goes further and declares such behavior lying for the sake of peace, an outright mitzvah. This rabbinic reading of Vayechi is popular, I think, because it intuitively makes a certain kind of emotional sense to us and resonates with our life experience. I imagine that many of us have white lied, shaded the truth for the sake of a perceived greater good. And most of the time, we do not call such an act a lie. We call it a white lie. A lie that has some purity of intent underneath it. That is almost a universal rabbinic understanding. But nonetheless, I suggest the following. It seems to me that by accepting this rabbinic reading, we actually let the brothers off the hook too easily. And in doing so, deprive ourselves of an important conversation. The brothers go too quickly to the white lie. And instead of speaking with courage and acknowledging their lingering guilt and their fear, they make up this story. In the 17 years since their reunion with Joseph, they have not once expressed shame for their behavior. They have never offered regret. Rather, they seek to avoid recrimination through contrived words put in the mouth of Jacob. Instead of finding the strength to have a difficult conversation with Joseph, to own up for past damaging behavior, they keep their feelings buried, and Joseph must intuit their true feelings underneath the words spoken. When we choose silence or a small little fib, told presumably, perhaps certainly, in the name of peace, we say, often something more than truth gets compromised. Only when we challenge ourselves to find the courage and the gentle words that come from the sweetness inside us to say difficult things can we expect intimacy to grow, to deepen. The brothers may believe they have reason to fear Joseph, for sure, particularly if they see Joseph not for the person he is, but as a person like they have been. Yet, if they cannot sense Joseph's core of goodness and the sweetness of his neshama, his soul, it is probably because they have not located their own. Moreover, their integrity lies in their trying to clean up their side of the street, no matter how Joseph might respond. In making the choice not to have the conversation, we have no reason at all to hope that the distance between Jacob's sons will ever be meaningfully healed. Their relation will not deepen as it might have through an honest exchange. Instead of justifying the brothers' behavior, we might have been better served had the rabbis of the Talmud used this incident in our parsha this week as an opportunity to challenge the ways we often too easily permit ourselves to avoid meaningful, deep conversations and bury our fears, feelings, worries, and anxieties, and justify our actions by claiming the primacy of a competing good. The brothers' concerted action is quite understandable, but let us not hold it up as a model for us. Let us not claim a competing good when integrity and honor will be set aside and when our dearest relationships are at stake. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Oh, Bruch Atiyeh.